Atheist Nomads, episode 170. Damn it, I need to do catchy episode names again.
The podcast you're about to listen to includes cursing and talking about hoo-haws. Please be advised.
We are the Atheist Nomads, bringing you history, science, politics, religion, and interviews with leaders in the atheist community. Not all those who wander are lost. Welcome to another episode of Atheist Nomads. I am Dustin. Joining me as always is Wesley.
Hello, everybody.
And
kind of
joining us tonight again is my lovely wife, Lauren.
Hello. Oh, and Rocco.
And Rocco, too, yep.
He's got a cute new name, doesn't he?
No.
Rocco is his penis.
No. He's our dog,
no, there's
Lauren.
a Rocco all over my face.
Oh my god. Yeah, that's...
Oh.
No.
All right.
No, you cannot call it that.
Okay.
He is our dog. That is just wrong, Lauren. It's wrong, I tell you.
Oh, boy.
All right, let's go ahead and jump right on into it.
Jump
totally.
on it. Jump on it.
For our first story, it's also a bit of dusting off the degree since it is about the Adventist Church.
Oh.
And so I need to start off with a little bit of background. I'm pretty sure I covered this previously on a dusting off the degree, at least part of this. But the Adventist Church has a very regimented structure. More levels of structure than any other religious organization. Actually, more than most other organizations, period. You have the local church. If it's small churches, several of those go into one district. If it's a larger church, then that church is its own district. Then you have conferences, which are roughly state level. Then you have union conferences, which are several states, or in some cases, whole countries. In a few other cases, several countries. So like Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana, and Alaska all make up one union conference. Canada makes up one union conference. So that's an example of how that works. Then you have 13 divisions that cover the entire world. North America is a division with the U.S., Canada, and some of the Caribbean. And then you have the Inter-American division, which is the rest of the Americas. There's several European divisions that have parts of Africa, and like those are mostly across language boundaries. You've got several divisions in Asia, and so on and so forth. You got 13 total by the time you get around the world. And then all of those make up the General Conference, which is the World Church. The General Conference meets as a whole officially once every 5 years at a General Conference session. Every conference, union, and division send representatives to the General Conference. They have thousands of people taking part and voting on things. If they're making a change in church doctrine, and at this point in the Adventist Church's history, changes are revisions or updating their understanding, not so much as changing
nice
doctrine.
Little loophole there.
Yeah, because they would change doctrine in the 1800s when they still had a concept called present truth, as God was revealing more stuff to them as they could handle it. Well, that all got wrapped up by the time Ellen White died, so now it's just revising their understanding slightly. And then in the intervening years, they have an annual council with a few hundred delegates coming from across the world.
And that happens how often?
That's annual.
Okay.
Each fall.
This is starting to sound like the nerdy kid who likes to really likes to make spreadsheets. It's like, okay, go make your own religion.
So officially,
I'll show you.
Officially in the Adventist Church, it's a bottom-up structure because everything is democratic. So you have the local churches who elect their own officers, and they send delegates to conference sessions to elect the conference officials, and the conferences send delegates, and so on and so forth until you get to the General Conference president. In all practicality, though, yeah, you vote bottom up, but the answers come top down.
I'm kind of bottom up too. I mean, when I'm looking at my girl, I kind of look at her bottom first. It looks pretty good.
I'm a top.
I start at the
person
top
myself.
Yeah, I start at the top with Lauren's amazing boobs.
Well, thank you.
My girl's stacked. Don't get me wrong; she's fucking sexy, but that ass. She's over there smiling.
So that's a good segue to the issue that we are talking about specifically this time, and that is women's ordination. Mm-hmm. Because the official what's available per last year's General Conference session, when they had a vote available to allow ordination of women being a division level option, that failed. Like, it was destroyed. And so what generally and what officially is available is for women is commissioning. This is a alternative to ordination that was originally created for the mission field, where you'd have lay ministers out in the mission field. There wouldn't be an ordained minister for hundreds or thousands of miles, so they'd be commissioned so that they could fulfill the roles of a pastor in the local area, whereas ordained ministers can fulfill the roles of a pastor anywhere in the world. So women who are commissioned as ministers, they can do baptisms and marriages, and
they can do all the work, just
organize churches, but only within their district. So if it's a one church district, they can only do it, like for the Walla Walla University Church, for example. The women there's 3 women on the pastoral staff there. They can only do pastoral functions in the Walla Walla University Church. And they can
Sounds like my Boy Scouts.
They can only do pastoral duties elsewhere if they have explicit permission to do so from the pastor or over that area or conference leadership.
What if there was a lady on a plane and the plane was going to crash, and they asked if there was a priest on board, and she's coming from her district and going to somewhere that's not her district? Would she be able to give last rites?
No, because that's a Catholic thing.
Oh.
No.
Or pray for people?
You don't need a pastor for that.
Oh, okay. Do you see my point?
So if anybody asked is there a pastor on board and no man put their hand up, could she put her hand up?
As far as the Adventist Church goes, the only things you actually need a pastor for are conducting official church functions.
What if the plane was crashing and there was a baby on board and they wanted to baptize the baby?
Adventists don't do infant baptism.
What if there was a person on board who wanted to get it baptized and they had like a tub of water and everything?
If they wanted to get married,
is a really messy plane.
If
get
they
married.
had the marriage license,
get married before they die in a fiery plane crash.
A pastor could do that, but a commissioned minister couldn't.
Aww.
And that would also be assuming that they didn't have to be registered in the area whose ground they were over, and the couple had a marriage license for the state they were flying over at that moment.
Yeah, take that, state rules and regulations.
That's a messy, complicated scenario.
Different kind of Mile High Club.
It still really sounds like my Boy Scouts, though, because I never saw a male den leader ever. It was always den mothers, and they could do all the stuff except for like the official stuff.
Yeah. A little bit of that. But, women as ministers in the Adventist Church is a relatively new thing. Despite the fact that one of the founders and the prophet of the church was a woman, and she was ordained, that doesn't matter for any of that.
That always kind of weirded me out, because I would think that would help them be more progressive, but no, they just like their old boys club.
They like the old boys club, and The old boys club hated her anyway.
Oh, yeah, they probably did. They're like, let's use you, but I hate you.
They loved her when her husband was alive and could control her. But once he died, and she came out of her depression and actually started speaking out and challenging them, they shuffled her
and
off.
Off to Australia you go.
Yeah. Australia and California. They got her as far away from Michigan as possible.
So, but there's a difference in the demographics, right? Some people are more friendly towards women ordination than others.
Yeah. So the whole idea of women as pastors is still something that pretty much only happens in North America in the Adventist Church.
That includes Canada. Woo!
Yeah. And there's only a couple of unions who have gone as far as, and not even just unions, but a couple of conferences who have gone as far as ordaining women. Something they were not ever allowed to do. Official church policy is only men can be ordained.
Damn hippies.
But if you're in the Southeastern California Conference, which covers Loma Linda University, La Sierra University, and like everything in Southern California that's not LA and San Diego, basically. If you're in that conference, they ordain women. I think the Southern California Conference does as well. There's a couple of others, but not many. And it's a contentious issue. So they had, I started seeing this in probably mid-September. There was, they've been planning on this for about a year, basically ever since last year's General Conference session in San Antonio. They'd been working on, and by they, I mean the General Conference, like senior leadership, how to get the rebellious conferences and unions that are ordaining women in line. And by September, some draft documents were coming out where they had the process outlined where they would do consultations. They would tell them to get in line. They didn't say what would happen to the women who were ordained, but they couldn't be anymore. And if they didn't, then the General Conference was going to take over those unions, depose the leadership, and put in their own people.
Depose the leadership.
Basically, take out the elected leaders and put in their puppets.
This calls
get
for
them in line.
This calls for a fuck the patriarchy, I think.
Fuck the patriarchy!
There we go. That's what I was looking for.
Anyway, they had so this document was going around, and there was a lot of people who weren't happy with it. The North American Division leadership was encouraging restraint. The theology faculty for the Seventh Adventist Theological Seminary at Andrews University, La Sierra University, and Walla Walla University were all encouraging restraint and more study and more talking. A bunch of union conference leaders and conference leaders were saying, please, let's talk about this more. Let's have some restraint. And then they had the annual council. They had a scaled down version of the document that only said that they would be doing consultations and encouraging the unions to come into line on this divisive issue and preserve church unity by not ordaining women. And that if any conferences were still in rebellion by the end of next year's annual council, then they would figure out how to handle them then. There were a bunch of people, like 4 hours worth of 2-minute speeches, almost all from North America and Europe, and almost all encouraging them not to do it. Then they took the vote, and it passed, with almost every single vote coming from the rest of the world.
Wow.
So the rest of the world is perfectly okay with women just staying down and... Well,
so what?
Go North America, I guess.
What I see, there's two things I see with this. One is, by doing this, they're encouraging division within the church, because there are going to be some, especially in California and in some of those more liberal conferences, that are going to look at it and be like, oh, hell no. You can't do this. You can't take away these women's ordination. It's just blatant sexism, and they could rebel, especially at the point that the General Conference says, all right, your leaders need to leave. Your elected leaders need to leave, and some of your pastors need to be stripped of their ordination. I could imagine those conferences, or at least parts of those conferences, splitting off. What the General Conference leadership has done, though, is preserved, quote, unity, not actually unity, but maintaining the support of the rest of the world, because the GC is still mostly run by white Americans and Europeans, despite the fact that Americans and Europeans, and just whites in general, make up a very small percentage of the Adventist Church's 19 million members.
Fuck the whiteys!
The rest of the world has the numbers. They don't have the money. And if they can keep them in line by keeping those women in line, then they are preserving their power.
Well, maybe somebody should just tell them that God is bullshit anyway, and they could just not feel bad about leaving the church.
You can try.
All right, we went a long time on that story.
You did have to explain the entire tier system of...
Yeah.
There's a lot of fucking backstory on that one.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
All right, let's go ahead and take our first break before we get to more news.
God damn.
Atheist Nomads is proudly brought to you by Archway Hosting. Check out their low-price, full-featured hosting solutions at archwayhosting.com. That's ARCHWAY hosting.com.
Hey, we're also brought to you by listeners just like you. Find out how you can become a patron at patreon.com/atheist nomads. That's patreon.com/atheist nomads.
You're probably already familiar with the backstory, but in case you aren't, in 2014, Raif Bawadi was sentenced by Saudi courts to 10 years in prison and 1,000 lashes for insulting Islam. He received the first round of those lashes in January 2015, with 50 being administered, and between the toll the punishment took on him, like almost killing him, and it being guaranteed that if they continued on schedule every week that he would die, and the international outcry that came from this, he hasn't received any more. Until now. Any day now, he will get more lashes.
Oh, hooray.
Yeah, so if you can't even handle 50, then why are they giving out like 1,000 lash sentences?
Oh, actually,
because they expect you to die.
And that actually wasn't the original sentence. The original sentence was 6 years and 600 lashes.
Yeah.
He appealed, and the appeals court upped it to 10 years and 1,000 lashes.
Wow. Better not appeal again then, huh?
This is Saudi Arabia.
This is our allies.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's too bad. I wonder if there's going to be another uproar over it.
You know, the Saudis wanted to avoid charging him with apostasy, which under their law would have allowed them to just execute him. I suspect a big part of it was just because executing him would have made him a martyr, and I don't think that's as much of a deterrent as beating him to death as slowly as possible.
Yeah, they want to make people suffer.
Pretty barbaric.
But, let this be a lesson to everybody else. This is what happens if you fuck with us.
Yep.
So, to discourage other people from starting, a social media network like he did to just discuss Islam. This is what happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, his wife and children they're refugees in Quebec. She really obviously wants her husband to be released. And not only released, but released to Canada.
Yeah, fucking right.
Which Canada would gladly take him. The EU Parliament president has been working personally on this case and has been very disappointed that all his efforts have been in vain.
Anything from the U.S.?
A little bit. I think John Kerry issued a statement.
Yeah.
That's disappointing.
Yeah. But the U.S. doesn't want to piss off Saudi Arabia too much since...
Well, oil.
Actually, what's crazy there, we don't really get much Middle Eastern oil in the U.S.
Yeah. I mean, we still have a few bases there, as I recall.
It's the bases and it's the global oil. Like, that's Europe's oil. We get most of our oil domestically or from Canada and Venezuela.
Mm-hmm.
And a little bit from Russia, a little bit from the Middle East, but really not much. If they cut us off, just the U.S., we'd be fine. If they cut off the world, we'd all be fucked.
Mm.
But the
funny part with that, though, is that they wouldn't last that long either.
No, they wouldn't.
If they didn't have money coming in.
No, they're
not that rich. They spend it.
The oil countries, they're all doing major trust funds to store up. Like, I think it's the United Arab Emirates. They've started working on diversifying their economy and have done a pretty decent job. Now, I think only 2/3 of their money comes in from oil instead of 100%.
Yeah, I like to diversify my portfolio.
But they are saving a lot of that money and building up I think the goal for all of them is to have like a 200 or 300 year trust fund.
You know,
for the country.
That would help the really rich people, but again, their country. Nah.
Yeah. But what I see as the biggest issue here is, we condemn the Islamic State for torturing and executing apostates.
And there's our ally doing the exact same thing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why I said it was really disappointing that the U.S. hasn't stepped up and said or done anything besides a few token words.
Yeah, you would think our alliance
Fuck the Saudi Arabiarchy.
You would think our alliance would be a two-way street, but it's not.
No, we're totally being strong-armed into submission here.
We're Saudi Arabia's bitch. I mean that in the least sexist way possible.
Mm.
What?
Nothing. Just thank you for that little note there. I'm like, it's like, well, he's gonna have to clarify here. Bitch.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and move on to a couple domestic stories. Actually, I think the rest of them are all domestic. Yeah, they are.
I might have added something to the end.
Okay, we'll see what. I don't know. I haven't seen that one yet. So
it's a quick one-liner. It's cute.
Jeff Preberg applied for a vanity plate with the Pennsylvania Bureau of Motor Vehicles, since they have to have a BMV instead of the more standard DMV. Anyway,
it doesn't make it any better.
He had his three top picks, as is their practice there. You pick three. Atheist, with the one being replaced, or excuse me, with the I being replaced with a 1, since the normal spelling had already been taken. And no God, with both the letter O and with zeros being used instead of the O's. And it was denied.
Sure.
He'd already been chatting with Andrew Seidel from the FFRF on Twitter quite a bit. He was just a couple days from volunteering at the, or just had volunteered at the FFRF convention in Philadelphia. And
he's like, hey guys, watch this.
Seidel's an attorney for FFRF, isn't he?
Yeah. So
okay.
he reached out to Seidel and said, hey, I got this denial. The FFRF had a letter out the next day.
Oh, love it. They probably have a template.
He had several media appearances the same day that letter went out.
Nice.
And by the end of the interview he had was told by the reporter that the BMV had been trying to call him, that it was all a clerical administrative mistake.
Oh, yeah, obviously.
that atheist had been approved.
Yeah, somebody dropped the ball there and heads rolled, I bet.
If somebody got drunk with his power, I'm not going to let him have atheist.
I actually really doubt anybody's head rolled over.
Yeah, that's true. They probably guys like don't do that. We don't want to get sued.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lawsuit they would lose, especially since atheist is already a plate that's been issued.
Yeah, somebody else got the original. Well, it's like our friend that got the Idaho one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm honestly surprised.
Well, okay, states can...
that's funny.
They can deny offensive or obscene plates.
Yes.
Yeah, shit, fuck. Standard stuff.
Yeah.
The key word there, I think, is offensive. A lot of people find the word atheist to be offensive.
The problem is, because it is the state, if you allow any kind of religious messages...
I'm sure there's a God. I'm sure there's a Jesus.
You have
plate.
to allow all of them.
Yes.
Oh, I want the Satan plate.
Hail Satan. Do it. Brighten someone's day with your satanic message of love.
Oh, if Heart is available in Washington, have Heart Satan or I Heart Satan.
Hearts? Does anybody allow that on a license plate?
Most of them do. A lot of states do, at least.
Did not know that.
You can get hearts and a handful of other symbols.
Allow winky faces?
Probably not.
Well, kind of, maybe. Yeah, you might be able to get a colon in a bracket. I don't know.
I think this guy went the right route with just replacing letters with numbers.
I've never been a big fan of Satan, the word, but I really always liked Morning Star. It's just too damn long.
Oh, Lucifer, you're in trouble now.
Morning asterisk.
Oh.
Too long. Still too long.
Morning.
Yeah, still too long. Well,
Morning.
You might be able to get 9. I forget.
No. Heck, our state is down to 5.
Well, Idaho depends on which
your
plate it
state's
is.
fucking tiny.
Yeah.
With people.
Idaho's vanity plates.
7 to 5.
If you have the standard plate and a couple of other varieties, you can get 7 letters. If it's most of the specialty plates, like Lauren has the gem specialty
State.
plate, which has a 5-letter limit.
And a star garnet.
Oh.
Yeah.
And my name on it.
Maximum of 7 characters, 6 for motorcycles in Washington State. God damn it.
Satan motorcycle plate.
Maybe you just misspelled Santa. Oh. Okay, I'm totally taking the next one.
Okay.
All right, so this is awesome. Payson High School in Arizona recently had a guest speaker, Brad Henning, who led a youth group for a while, wrote a book, and then started traveling the country speaking to students about sex ed and relationships. The second day of his program involved dividing the boys and the girls, which often happens. I remember that happening in our sex ed class. The girls had a mandatory lecture that focused on why they shouldn't have sex, which is kind of what I got here in public schools, and how it's their responsibility to not unleash a guy's God-given sexual urges. That's in quotation marks. Unleash a guy's God-given sexual urges. I have to admit, that message was not taught to me in my public school. This was followed up with a voluntary boys' assembly. Voluntary, with very low attendance, and the focus on their group was how to get a date.
Yeah.
So, women, don't you dare. Guys, here's how to get some.
Well, he opened with telling the boys that he'd asked the girls how many had boyfriends, and out of the 350, only 40 rose their hands. He's like, so if you want a date, you can get one, and I will tell you how.
See, that's creepy.
Yeah.
That's creepy and inappropriate, and oh my god, so sexist.
And probably nowhere in that did he say for the boys to wrap their tools.
No, he probably did not mention any kind of...
Somehow I doubt bananas were involved.
Yeah. God, it just blows my mind that somebody... Not only did somebody think that this was a good idea, but that a school invited this person to then talk about it.
That's his career now. Is going to schools.
I'm sure that he's gotten nothing but more business since this article broke. But it's one of those things where in this public schools, you got to be vigilant.
Well, and what's always crazy to me is I went to a private Adventist school and had comprehensive sex ed several times, at least twice. Had it in middle school and then again in high school. Middle school, they split up the boys and girls. Our teacher took the girls and the principal took the boys. And we had it again in our high school health class. Nobody got split up that time. It was everybody together. And in both cases, it was very matter of fact. Here's how everything works. Here's how to not get pregnant until you're ready. And when they had to put any emphasis on, okay, let's not get complaints from parents. This is what you do when you're married and you're not ready to have a baby yet.
Ah, clever.
But they still taught all of it.
See, in my school, we had the question come up, how does HIV get transmitted if it's blood transfusions? How is it transmitted during sex? The nurse he's like, okay, well, there are things like micro tears that happen when you're having sex. And the next day, we had the nurse had to publicly apologize to the class for being too graphic.
What?
For explaining how HIV can be transmitted during sex.
Wow.
Yeah,
awesome.
That was what I grew up with.
Wow.
It was pretty caveman sex ed there.
Damn.
In fact, they might as well have just taught caveman sex ed. Man beats you over head with rock, and it was your fault for showing too much collarbone.
Speaking of like caveman sex ed, I was reading further down into this article. This Henning guy, explained that guys are sexual so the species won't die out, while girls have a low sex drive so this planet will not get overpopulated.
Yeah, that didn't work out too well, did it?
That's like demonstrably false.
I know, this poor guy is... Oh, you know what's sad is he's been turned down so often by girls who have low sex libidos, and the truth is that he just wasn't their type.
Now, okay, to be fair, from a... Typically speaking, men have higher sex drives than women, on average, and they have different types of sex drives where men tend to be more of the initiator type of sex drive, where women tend to be more of the responsive type of sex drive. And by tend, with the studies have looked into that, found about 2/3 of men being more the spontaneously wanting to have sex and being happy to initiate, with about 2/3 of women being not all that interested until advances are being made.
Which throws back to the good old-fashioned 1950s model where women don't have a libido. It's kind of part of that. I wonder how much of that affects girls into thinking that, well, I'm not supposed to have a libido, therefore...
But if you look at human history, until contraceptives came about, typically women would have about as many children as their bodies could physically handle until menopause or death.
Well, yeah, but a lot of kids died in childbirth.
A lot of kids died during childbirth, and a lot of women died during childbirth.
Yeah, wraps that up nice and tight there.
And so, but that's,
it's the unleash a guy's God-given sexual urges that just is like... learn to control yourself.
Well, this article actually does, and it's from the local paper there. It does a really good job of, like, parents were outraged about this because they've been talking in their community about rape culture and consent, and he never talked about consent at all. And the things he said to the girls was basically victim blaming, and, well, yeah, it was just straight up victim blaming.
Yeah, you never told the boys to take responsibility, and never told them to not, avoid taking advantage of a girl.
Well, they never taught the girl to take responsibility either. Just abstinence only doesn't teach any kind of responsibility for anyone.
This is disgusting.
It is disgusting. So, yes.
Why is this shit still being spewed?
Yeah. Well, like, goodness. Okay, for one good example on it was my school. Before I started there, my stepsister was going to school there when I think they did sex ed for the first time. Yeah, none of the teachers
knew how to do it.
So they brought in a nurse to do sex ed. One parent freaked out that this was going to happen.
Oh, goodness.
And didn't let his daughter take part. 6 months later, she was pregnant.
I can see that coming a mile away. Anyway.
Trump at the debate last week, there's only a couple points I really want to bring up, but the
one point that I want to bring up real quick is don't bother watching debates, watch the SNL skit afterwards, and you're all pretty much caught up.
Yeah. So, okay, the first one, which one do I want to do first?
There was an amazing Keith Olbermann video that he did for GQ.
Okay, let's start off with him not being sure if he'll accept defeat. He's tried to downpedal that sense, but as soon as he almost gets on point with what his speechwriters prepared for him, he backs down from that. So he will accept the results if he wins.
Yeah, of course.
And will not...
I think that's his new rallying cry.
Yeah, he will not accept or... he won't commit to accepting the election results if he loses.
It should be just the opposite. Like, if he wins, you're like, I won't accept that. How in the fuck did I win? That would be...
This joke will never die.
Yeah, it's
the song that never ends.
It's one of those where, for the democracy to work, we've always had the loser graciously step aside. There's only been a few cases where it's been contested, and that's been where it's actually contested. Like, there wasn't a majority in the Electoral College, or...
And there's the last time it was actually contested was like 1850, 1860?
I would actually go with 2000.
No, Al Gore.
No, that
filing lawsuits over who won.
No, I mean, he graciously stepped aside as he ought to.
Yeah, but he didn't until after the Supreme Court stopped the recount.
I still wouldn't hold that one against him.
Oh, I'm not. If you have legitimate grounds, with a specific case that is fishy, and a very close vote in a critical state, like it was the case in 2000.
Yeah, Florida, that was some fucked up shit.
Yeah, if there are recounts starting automatically, I don't think you need to step aside then. Trump is already predicting it's going to be rigged.
Well, that's pretty much what happened, I thought, in like late 1800s. And that was like, I won't step aside either. Kind of like Trump is saying he won't.
Do you remember who that was? I'm curious.
Honestly, Oberyn fucking mentioned it.
Oh, okay. Good video.
He fucking ranted. That was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Go to hell, Trump.
I'm sorry for our listeners who are going to vote for Trump and listening to this, but from where we're coming from, there's just that is not. We can't do it.
It's not cool, man.
I'm not sorry to our listeners who are going to vote for Trump. If you are willing to vote for that terrible,
that fucking piece of shit Cheeto.
Yeah, He is currently facing fraud charges, fraud lawsuits, rape charges, numerous rape accusations. There is evidence coming out of him selling influence to foreign governments, or at least
China.
being willing to.
Yeah, millions of dollars of investment from China.
If you can
in his
actually
campaign.
back Trump, fuck you.
You know, what does that say about America that all these foreign all these foreign countries are willing to back Trump? Oh God.
Yeah.
Well, the quote unquote bad ones, fucking Europe in general is fucking scared. You know, most decent countries, most decent people are kind of afraid of Trump getting elected.
That's true. That's true.
Rightly so.
Yeah.
Oh man. So yeah, not conceding. That's
Well, and in response to that, there's like the article we have linked to here. They talk about a guy who's stocking up on ammunition because he's convinced that not only is Trump not going to accept a defeat, but it's going to prompt a civil war.
A civil war, yes, a race war,
Yep.
a war against between Republicans and Democrats, liberals,
Christians and everybody else.
I've seen the
Yeah.
budget. I've seen how much money goes to the government's military, and I don't think that is a good idea to go up against those guns.
Yeah.
No amount of stockpiling your pissant little ammunition is going to prepare you for a tank.
Now, the problem with that is the Bundys have now twice proven that you can take up arms against the government and nobody's going to stop you.
Yeah, but
pretty much, yeah.
A countrywide race war would
Well,
instigate
scratch that.
some-
Only if you're white.
only if you're white. Right, the white billionaire is the one who's complaining that the system is rigged against him.
Yeah.
Really?
Well, it was so funny was when Hillary baited him with him thinking that The Apprentice should have won the Emmy and saying that the Emmys were rigged against him. And then he said, yeah, it was. I should have won. What?
Yeah.
And he had a totally
I'm
straight
telling
face.
you, man. SNL got that
Oh,
so
man.
good.
Okay, so the other point I want to bring up from the debate is his statement about ripping the babies out. I saw a number of, and if you aren't familiar with what he said, it was that days before birth,
If Hillary had her way,
days before birth, they'd be ripping the babies out and killing them. And while
that's
this
called
was
a
going
C-section.
on, there were doctors tweeting out that no, this is not what happens. No, that is not what happens. I saw on Facebook a number of people saying, speaking out against it. Unfortunately, I saw one friend I have on Facebook saying that decided the election in her mind for Trump because he stands for life and Hillary for death. And then we had one friend who talked about her own late-term abortion.
Thousands of women have come out and told the story that they haven't been able to utter a word about for years. And it was heartbreaking.
Our friend had been silent about that until now, and she was 6 months pregnant. They found out that the baby had cysts, like baby's kidneys were filled with cysts. The brain wasn't fully developing. It wasn't a baby. At that point, it was a corpse on life support. And so they did an abortion. The alternative to that is, and the closest I can relate to with this was when I saw my nephew brain dead on life support. It's fucked up because you see signs of life, but what you actually have is death. And that is weird. And I wasn't the life support.
Yeah, you weren't the person actually.
If you force someone to not only simultaneously be dealing with signs of life, but yet it's death, and having personal physical toll for months. Oh, hell no.
And then having a society turn around and call you a murderer. Yeah.
That's not murder. At that point, the line between future human and tumor moves towards the tumor side.
It's the best way that we can seem to define it is viability outside of the womb.
Mm-hmm.
If it is possible to take a fetus and take it out and it is viable on its with help of technology, with medical science, then there's that, okay, that is not that's called a C-section, and that happens a lot. But if you can't, then it's called an abortion because the result is the end of that life. But that doesn't happen days before it's born.
Yeah, if it is at the point where you can...
Preemies are a thing, and they happen all the time.
Yeah, but if the fetus is a viable baby, it's not an abortion to terminate. It's infanticide.
Which
is murder.
People are pretty not cool with.
Yeah. No doctor is going to do that. Elective abortions happen. Almost all of them before the 20-week mark. Like 99% of elective abortions are in the first trimester. All of the rest are in the second trimester. Before viability. Ah, man.
Move on. Let's move on. It's getting heavy.
All right. Hey, it's my turn, isn't it?
Hey.
All right. So, a little bit of kind of sad news, but anyways, doesn't matter. There's a group called the Nebraska Atheists. Check them out at nebraskaatheist.com. And they posted the equivalent of the Fluffy Bunny sign out on the highway that said the good life without God. It's possible. And they did this with Lamar advertising. But apparently some people complained, and the billboard was taken down after several residents threatened to stop doing business at the gas station and store whose space the advertising company was using for the signage. It was only up for a few days, but at least Lamar actually gave the atheist group all of their money back.
That's nice.
That was nice of them, I suppose.
I guess it's all about location, huh? You can't have a sign associated with a business because then people can use that as a way to get it shut down.
Well,
versus just a highway sign.
I
have a thought that is slowly.
Yes. So to me, it's one thing if it's a business of public accommodation. So it's your standard run-of-the-mill business. Oh, hell, not even that. If you have a billboard on your property that you are taking money for, I don't think you should have any editorial rights.
I pretty much agree. I mean, you can complain to the company, hey, I don't really agree with that message. Sure, fine, you can say that, but you know what? You're getting paid, so that's definitely on shaky ground for me.
But, if they're taking down what was on the billboard, they should be removing the entire billboard from the property.
Yeah.
Well, that would be nice, but that would also be losing a revenue stream for Lamar advertising.
They'd find somebody else who'd want it.
Well, I mean, that's something you could write up in your contract, like, hey, I don't want X types of signs on my property. And then have that written into your contract with X advertising company. But since there wasn't...
Well, the real winners here is Nebraska Atheists, because they managed to get picked up on news.
Yep.
On the news circuit. And I hope that they've gotten a couple of new members as a result.
They have.
Totally.
Awesome!
Yeah, Sean Kapler said we are grateful for the work that Lamar did for us, and we are disappointed that we don't get an equal platform to share ideas. But, he's going on, I think a group like ours is necessary because not everyone is religious. Cool thing. But I think everyone needs a community. So, yeah, fucking A.
Now, okay, as far as who lost, okay, so like I've already given some crap to the business that whose property the sign is on, but them having longtime customers threatening to take their business elsewhere, that did put them in a rough spot. So that would have really sucked to be in that position, because the gas station owner, he saw the sign and he didn't care.
Yeah.
But when he had people threatening to take their business away, he went ahead and shared that information with Lamar. And who really lost with this was Lamar, who did the printing and the work of putting up the billboard and didn't get any money for it.
Yeah, they kind of lost out on that. There's really not much you can do. This stuff happens all the time, so there's not much you can do about it.
Normally with stories like this, because we've seen these a few times before, where like it's really close to a church and people are complaining about that fact that it's close to a church. So the billboard company moves it to a different spot. And then the atheist billboard ends up getting extra time.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
For free.
Or you can have what happened to ours when we put up a billboard here in Boise and it pretty much got ignored.
Yeah, nobody cared.
Didn't hit the news, didn't really.
2 billboards and no one cared.
That's the best possible outcome, really.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, we had one on the connector, the Interstate 184, huge traffic for everybody commuting into downtown. And we had one on Caldwell Boulevard in Nampa, one of the busiest streets in the valley, in one of the most conservative cities in the valley. And no one cared.
Yeah, which I guess is actually a pretty good sign.
Yeah, totally. All right. Well, let's move on to the next story.
Okay.
Yeah, what is going on
in Germany? Yeah. The world's tallest church is being destroyed by urine. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I guess you could say you're in trouble.
Yeah. Well, they are. But yeah. This I just found fucking hilarious. So you've got a church that's actually almost 640 years old and is, well, getting pissed on all the time, quite literally. They this German city of Ulm, ULM. Apparently they have like festivals, and the people that put on festivals don't have like a proper toilet outhouses or anything like that, porta potties, and this has been going on forever, and people just piss on the fucking church. I guess maybe it's just a really common thing. Authorities have even doubled the fine from 50 euros to 100 euros, which like $54 to 109 in an attempt to curb the problem. But yeah, people just keep on pissing and vomiting on this building, and it's just really tearing up the sandstone.
Yeah,
fucking.
I'm not one for churches, but those old churches, it's just that's architecture, man. That's
those are history.
It's history. It's still kind of funny.
It is kind of funny, though.
The best argument I've heard for like maintaining the official status of the Church of England is that they do provide a service for the country by maintaining all of these ancient buildings.
I would love for it to be an ancient building that, doesn't have it's not a church anymore. It just turn it into like a fucking
community center,
giant restaurant,
bar.
Yeah,
coffee houses,
awesome.
Concert hall.
Yeah, I mean, it is fucking massive. It's really pretty. I'll give them that.
Like one thing that would be awesome with it for like a concert hall is they built those churches like that. Like basically everything before the modern, like mid to late or like mid 20th century, everything was built so that you could stand in a single point and everyone can hear you.
Right.
The acoustics
amazing
are
acoustics.
amazing.
Yeah.
My brother, when his bands toured in Europe, he's played in old cathedrals
Ooh.
and concentration camps
Right.
and seedy nightclubs.
We love you, Scott.
The concentration camp was a anarchist.
Fuck yeah.
It was a anarchist squatter community.
Nice.
A cathedral that would have been pretty spectacular to play in. Yeah.
Speaking of weird Nazi World War II, all that shit, they actually just found a Nazi weather station up very close to the North Pole in the very recently.
If you haven't seen Iron Sky, go watch it
awesome.
now.
Helium-3.
It was really creepy. It really did sound like something from a sci-fi.
That was one of the cutest movies ever. I loved it. And now just a really quick little tiny story because it's kind of funny and kind of cute. The Vatican just issued new rules, new guidelines recommending that cremated remains of Catholics be buried in cemeteries rather than scattered or kept at home. So this just kind of sounds like the Catholics are actually feeling the pinch of people, not investing,
not
in
paying
Catholic
for
land.
burials. Yeah. That's because it's insanely expensive.
It is
for digging a hole in the ground.
It just made me laugh because, like, hey, Catholics are
don't keep them at home, and everybody looks over at Grandpa and goes, "Oh."
The one thing that makes sense would be, most religious groups think that everything needs to be in the same spot for the resurrection. Groups that believe in a resurrection.
But if you're already burnt up,
at least the ashes are all in one spot so that your molecules can be reassembled.
I mean, there's already enough BS about the whole resurrection thing, but that's just stretching it that much further.
Yeah.
Think nothing of the gases and dust particles that flew away.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Well,
I want to be buried as a tree.
I want to be scattered.
I have ashes on my bookshelf, and I'm just waiting on final sign-off from other next of kin.
They're watching us.
Before we go and scatter them.
Yeah. Not because he's Catholic.
No.
Well, obviously not, because you want to scatter them. Not pay for an expensive burial.
Yeah. Goddamn right. Have a party for me. Fuck, get drunk.
All right, we've got some feedback. First off, this one I forgot to play a few times.
Uh-oh.
So...
Hey, Nomads, this is the Watcher speaking. Thank you for responding to my email. And to answer Lauren's question, fuck the patriarchy! Yes, the show's awesome with you. Much better.
Nice.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. It's our new tagline.
Which is awesome since we kind of are the patriarchy. Well, at least two of us are.
You privileged white males.
From Jaded Zappa via Patreon. This is about last episode. I like this episode a lot. You both seem more loose and in good humor, even though the news was a bit on the sad side. Well, except for the space stuff, which is awesome. And Lauren wrote that part.
Yeah.
I did miss Lauren being there, and I hope she's feeling better. I had no problem with the older format, but it's good to do something different, and I'm happy with the results. I hope that Wesley will be introducing more stories as well.
I shall endorse stories also.
Introducing more stories. Sorry.
I can't spell. Actually, it was spelled correctly.
Yeah, I can't read.
I am feeling better. I had a neck twinge that for a week, basically, I was on hydrocodone and muscle relaxants for. It was bad. In fact, I'm still suffering from it a little bit, but I'm mostly better now. Thank you, everyone, for showing concern.
And Nate Crawford said, "It's great to have you guys back. Hope Lauren feels better soon."
I do.
And holy shit, we got an iTunes review?
New iTunes review from Sidione.
Uh-huh.
It's good. 4 stars. Good podcast. Listen.
Words.
All right.
Yes.
Wise words. Should be a 5-star though. God damn it.
Should have been a 5-star.
Good podcast, not great podcast.
Good
Okay.
podcast. Listen.
Yeah, should still be 5 stars.
Still
But thanks,
suggesting people listen.
Yeah.
I love it. Short but earnest.
Yep. And no new patrons. In fact, since last episode, we are down a patron.
No.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
We understand times are tough, but
Since the episode before that, we're down 2, but yeah.
we're suffering here.
Year as a whole, we're down quite a few. Yeah.
Well, that's pretty much over the entire atheist community, but come on, guys and gals and everybody.
We're going to be doing a Patreon relaunch here in a couple more weeks, so be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, you'll actually get some rewards for doing
sweet.
it versus just the pat on the back that you give yourself and twinge your neck.
Well, like this episode, we are now over at an hour and 16 minutes. At least one story, if not more, are going to be patron only.
Ooh, you better get on that.
Uh-huh.
Jump on that train.
Having some weird, funny, sexy kind of story that we just patron only.
There we go. Something titillating.
Well, of course,
It's gonna be naughty.
once we're done, we could keep talking for the patrons.
For the patrons.
Yeah. But on that note, if you want to support us, you can go to patreon.com/atheistnomads or go to the website, atheistnomads.com, and find all the links on the side. If you aren't subscribed to the podcast, not patronage-wise, but just in general, we have an app in the Google Play Store and in the Apple App Store. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music, and basically everywhere else podcasts
We're
are found.
everywhere.
Fucking A.
So, yeah. And on that note, we will be back next week. We need a new sign-off.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Atheist Nomads. You can find show notes and contact information at atheistnomads.com. Follow us on Twitter at Atheist Nomads, and like us on Facebook at facebook.com/Atheist Nomads. Please subscribe to the show in iTunes, Stitcher, or your podcatcher of choice, and while you're there, feel free to leave us a review. Theme music is courtesy of Sturdy Fred. Until next time, this has been the Atheist Nomads.